This weekend's been crazy tough for us here on the homestead. There's a lot of stuff that went wrong. However, we continue to try and think about all the positive stuff that's happened and all the reasons why we do this. We lost a little baby chicken that we had incubated. We had our chickens that we let free range. They got into the greenhouse and destroyed, I think it was about 14 bell pepper plants that we transplanted. They destroyed a whole bunch of lettuce that was seeded and coming up. They destroyed some lettuce that we had transplanted into the greenhouse. And they dug up some asparagus. So they just made a mess of the greenhouse when they got in. And then one of the other chickens that we have, we rescued, I believe it was last year or the year before. It's one of the plain white ones, like regular egg-laying chickens. Well, apparently she doesn't fit in with our Chanticleers. So the Chanticleers would pick on her and the rooster would treat her not so well. So she got really banged up as well this past week. And then she seemed to be on the mend and then went in, I think it was Saturday morning, Friday morning, and it almost looked like she lost an eye. They've just treated her so bad. So we've actually moved her into this coop right here in the garage that we've built. And she's going to be there by herself for a bit. We might see if we can find another chicken or two to put in there with her, keep her company for a while. We'll see how it goes. So then one of the other things we found out is our Highland cow that we harvested last year, we keep the skulls and the hides so we can prepare them and sell them hopefully later on as we collect more. And that'll help supplement everything that's going on here in the homestead. However, we found out yesterday that the one skin we harvested from our Highland in the fall, we thought was still frozen and it wasn't. So it already began to start rotting and losing the hair. So we just had to pitch it in the garbage, which is a huge loss for us considering that we could probably get $800 or something for that. And it's not only just the money that, is a big concern for us that way, but it is the loss, the time we've taken and the care that we've put into everything, and that we do want to use all parts of the animal and be able to utilize everything rather than, just get rid of stuff. We want to try and use as much as we can possibly. So that was a huge hit to us as well this weekend. And I was getting cranky and really pissed off about stuff. And Bridget came over, gave me a big hug, and she mentioned it was like, even though we lost the skin, we didn't lose the meat itself, which would be even a bigger hit for us. And even though the chickens ate the stuff in the greenhouse, it's easy for us to restart. We got a good head start on everything this year. So, it's not a huge loss. It's a setback. So it always seems like, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But again, it's, there's so many things on the homestead that make us happy, and there's no reason not to continue just because you have some setbacks. And that's one of the things that, as a community, it's really nice to be able to talk to other homesteaders and find out, that Rome wasn't built in a day. So everyone has setbacks. Everyone's going to continue to build, and everyone has those bad days. But there are so many good things that make us all happy and so many positives that it really outweighs any of the bad times that we do have. One of the huge positives for us this weekend, besides the beautiful weather that's melting all the snow, is Bridget had a coworker who was giving away 13 of these cedar doors, and they've got full glass down the side. So with those, we're going to be able to build almost an entirely new greenhouse if we want, or use it for some other projects for like the chickens or that sort of thing, where we can build a winter house for them that's going to keep them warm, but allow them more possibilities of moving around and scratching and pecking in the ground. So that is a huge gain for us as well. And one of the huge positives for us too is being able to come out here and pet the cows and brush the cows and see the cows. they put a big smile on our face. And it's so amazing that it just brings us so much happiness. And with all of that, again, having a community where you can talk to people, have some friends, you can bounce stuff off of each other, and sharing the joys and the sadness, the disappointments and the accomplishments. So with that, here's a few of my friends in the homesteading community talking about how long it's taken them to build their homesteads and some of the joys that they have about their own homesteading.
Hi, we're Mike and Angie from Me and You Acres, and we've been building a homestead from scratch for 2 years.
It'll be 2 years coming up this August, and we've definitely had a lot of highs and a lot of lows. But in another 2 years, we will have the homestead of our dreams.
In year 1, we had to clear cut the area. We had to put the driveway in, level the ground, and we also built a barn that we could shelter in over the winter.
We picked up our trailer the first year too.
Yep.
And that's what we're currently residing in, inside of the barn. So going into our second year, we built the rest of the shell of the cabin. We put the roof on. We focused a little bit more on clearing as well, ideas for landscaping. We made the barn more livable. We focused a lot on that.
Poured the concrete for the floor.
Yes, we got the concrete for the floor of the cabin in. And so now we're working on all the small things, which don't seem so small when we're working on them. What got me into homesteading and what I love about it is doing for myself, ourselves. I never had any idea that we were going to build a home from scratch. It's hard, it's tough, but what keeps us going is what we know will be here at the end of it all. If you want to start homesteading, if you are homesteading and things aren't going as planned, one of the things that I've learned through homesteading is everything has seasons. You live with your seasons, and that includes, good and bad things.
We've been homesteading on this particular piece of property for almost 9 years. It's never done. We're still constantly building. We're adding meat birds and more egg-laying birds to our homestead this summer. My favorite part of homesteading is garden. Being in my garden, getting my hands dirty, planting the healthy, nutritious food that I feed my family, and then preserving all that food to get us through the winter.
So I started my homestead about 3 years ago, and the thing is, the first year all I had was this little small garden, and then I kept adding on, bigger garden, more animals. There's always the struggles. There's always the fear that maybe you're not going to get to where you want to be on time. But you know what? Homesteading is not a destination per se. It's a journey. You can make it to the end right away. For me, after a year, I had a big step back when the village approached me to tell me that I wasn't allowed to have my own pigs, and I wasn't allowed to have my own meat chickens here, my own chickens. It was a real bummer for me. I was lucky enough that I found some more spot to put my animals. I have some awesome friends that give me other chances, other opportunities. I was able to bring my animals not too far from here. The best thing about homesteading really for me is putting my hands in the dirt, harvesting my veggies. The animals is always something that, yes, they're fun to have, but they are time consuming because every day you have to go and feed them, you have to go and give them water. That's the downside of it, but you get the best possible meat. When you talk about garden, about vegetables, if you don't go and water them tonight, it's not going to make a big difference. Like you still have tomorrow or the day after. You can't do that with animals. You plant perennials, if you start now, I'm not going to have a good harvest of fruits for another 3 to 4 years, because they say it takes between 5 to 10 years to really establish a food forest, which is what I'm trying to do now, and I'm just really working on it right now.
Building a homestead, how long does it take? Well, I started in April 2018, so I'm starting my 6th official gardening season and homesteading season, and every year I add up, and I have raised beds, I have in-ground gardens, but the work is never done. So it takes time, especially if you start from raw land. I started from raw land, nothing here. So getting established was a very long process, especially with my soil, building shelter for my animals, for my chickens and all of that. And the thing that I enjoy the most about homesteading is the fresh food and how great it tastes, and the satisfaction to know that it comes from your house, your hands, and your hard work. There's another thing also I love is the challenges, because every single time you are faced with a challenge, you learn from it.
Well, we have been homesteading for 15 years, spaced out over 3 different properties.
The worst part of homesteading, the biggest down I think for me, is fencing.
But fencing is a great metaphor because it takes time to put every single fence post in. And just like fencing, it takes time to build a homestead. I think for me, it's how quickly things change. How things go from being really good to really bad in a very short period of time. That doesn't matter whether it's animals or plants. But despite the negatives, there is a lot of positives. And I think the big one is the amount of food that we produce and the independence and sustainability that gives us. And it's basically a really nice buffer from just anything that goes on in the world. And we've lived through a few of those.
And as much as I should probably agree with Chris that it's all about that food and sustainability that makes me proud and happy, these are the moments on the homestead that make it all worth it.
Hey, T-Ham 141 Homestead, Tracy here. I've been homesteading for a lot of my life, my adult life, but I've been off-grid homesteading for the last 7 years. I love it. Part of it is the seclusion. Part of it is the being able to live the way I want to and how I see fit. It boils down to freedom. There's nothing like producing your own food, and it tastes so much better and it's so much healthier than anything that you can buy in the store nowadays. So that's what I love about homesteading, and off-grid homesteading especially. Y'all have a great day, and God bless.
We bought our house in 2015 and started our homestead at that time. We arrived in August, so the winter came pretty fast. Our first hutch was in the greenhouse that was already there. We began with Pepe, the rabbit we got in August, and those 3 little babies that we got for Christmas. We learned since that we don't have to give them so much apples and that rabbits can go through chicken wire pretty easily. It took 7 years of trial and errors, but we do have better insulation now. I think so. Even if the garden comes from far, the tunnels still don't have walls. And the food forest is never finished. But we now have plenty of food, and we do eat well. I think we even have more than we need. But what I'm really happy about is that we're building a new ecosystem with birds, bees, and all those will help us in the homestead in the future.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and remember that even though we do have dark days or, setbacks and that on the homestead, it's always going to be a journey that we have to continue and push forward. And just remember that all the happiness that is there for you to enjoy. Thanks again, guys. We'll talk to you soon.